Passing is and always will be a lethal offensive weapon. Let's face it.
Pro football has gone through many changes over the decades, but few things have had a greater impact than the evolution of throwing the football. From the invention of the forward pass in 1906 all the way to today's most complex passing attacks, moving the ball through the air is now a staple of the NFL. In today's video, we'll discuss how the passing game has changed the league forever. If you enjoyed today's video, smash the like and subscribe button for more great content. In today's football landscape, college is often seen as the stepping stone to playing on Sundays, and college coaches and teams frequently run offensive schemes that their quarterbacks benefit from. Quarterbacks have now become skilled at identifying where defensive backs are before the ball is snapped. This allows them to determine what type of coverages the opposing defense is trying to run. It also enables them to be prepared to pick up the blitz and pass rush far better than they would be able to in the past. If they make their pre-snap reads correctly, they'll stand a good chance of lighting up an opposing defense through the air.
All my quarterbacks, y'all should feel disrespected at the transfer coming in. Well, I'm trying to get money this year. I'm trying to go D1.
Some of the country's best passing quarterbacks in college also have eye-popping stats that NFL scouts drool over. For example, CJ Stroud from Ohio State lit up not just last season, but across his entire career. He completed nearly 70% of his passes, averaged 300 passing yards per game, and threw 85 touchdowns to just 12 interceptions. A big reason for those impressive numbers, and Houston taking him second overall in the draft, was thanks to Ohio State's pro-style passing offense. Other big-time college quarterbacks such as Joe Burrow, Trevor Lawrence, and Bryce Young all benefited from their college teams preparing them for the NFL by running pass-heavy, explosive offenses. While every NFL rookie goes through a learning curve, colleges aim to minimize that for quarterbacks by running systems that closely mirror what they'll see at the next level. Ever since the mid-1970s, the NFL has slowly but surely morphed into a pass-first football league. But only now are we truly seeing money reflect this shift. Some teams are banking on their quarterbacks being the guys who will lead them to the Super Bowl championships. The biggest contracts that come to mind are those signed with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, and Deshaun Watson. Those three deals are worth a combined $993 million. Let that sink in. So far, Mahomes is the only one of those three to reach and win the Super Bowl, and Kansas City is willing to shell out the money to prove that he can do it on a consistent basis. His deal's worth $450 million over 10 years, plus an extra $53 million in incentives. While the other two quarterbacks are not being paid as much, Jackson's $260 million and Watson's $230 million still represent massive investments by teams and quarterbacks who are gunslingers. Numbers don't lie, folks. If you need any more proof that the NFL is a pass-first football league, just take a look at how often some of the most successful teams attack opponents through the air. According to ESPN, the Chiefs, Buccaneers, and Chargers were the top three teams in the NFL last season in terms of the most passing yards per game on average. Kansas City threw the ball 38 times a game on average last year and completed 25 passes for 298 yards per game. For Tampa Bay, the Buccaneers were even more pass-happy than the Chiefs, letting it fly 44 times per game and completing 29 of those passes for roughly 270 yards per game. Lastly, LA threw the ball roughly 42 times a game, completing 29 passes for an average of 270 yards per game as well. According to Pro Football Reference, an NFL team runs roughly anywhere from 67 to 84 plays every game depending on the pace and style of their offense. When you plug the number of passing attempts in for each of the top three passing teams in 2022, this means they pass the ball anywhere from 56 to 66% of the time. This play calling breakdown is no surprise when you consider that those offenses were run by three extremely talented quarterbacks. Two of them are surefire future Hall of Famers in Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes, and the other is an explosive young gunslinger in Justin Herbert. After he was once penalized for a sack on Cleveland Browns quarterback Brian Sipe, Steelers legend and Hall of Famer Jack Lambert famously remarked that quarterbacks should wear dresses.
Well, it might be a good idea to put dresses on all of them.
Anyone who's a fan of watching particularly hard-hitting football games can understand Jack's frustration. Football is an inherently violent and brutal game. Players know what they sign up for before tightening their chin straps. But the NFL's taken the issue of protecting quarterbacks much more seriously in recent years, particularly when it comes to calling roughing the passer penalties. Over the last 3 seasons between 2020 and 2022, NFL officials threw a total of 374 flags for roughing the passer. That's according to NFLpenalties.com, a site that tracks how many times teams are penalized per game. From 2020 to 2021, the number of roughing the passer penalties jumped from 127 to 154. 2022 saw a drop in roughing the passer calls with 93, but it's still a safe bet to say that NFL officials will call near or over 100 roughing the passer penalties per season from here on out. Just as quarterbacks are protected by roughing the passer penalties, wide receivers are also protected by targeting and defenseless receiver penalties, which is a far cry from the era when defensive backs could be far more physical with opposing wide receivers. Hall of Famers Steve Atwater, John Lynch, and Jack Tatum would not make it in today's NFL thanks to the introduction of these penalties. They were all hard-hitting safeties who acted as enforcers whenever opposing wide receivers caught a pass right over the middle. Not only are wide receivers protected by targeting and defenseless receiver penalties, these penalties also indirectly strengthen a team's passing game. Opposing defensive backs sometimes tend to be less aggressive when covering receivers, out of fear that they'll be called for either targeting, hitting a defenseless receiver, or pass interference. This gives the offense a green light to run more explosive passing plays, and gives receivers a better chance to really torch the opposition. The league has seen some truly great receivers over the years, such as Jerry Rice, Michael Irvin, Randy Moss, Terrell Owens, and others. But today's best receivers may one day join them in Canton if opposing secondaries are afraid to get up close and personal when covering them. It's clear that the NFL is now fully a pass-first football league. Quarterbacks are prepared from college and even high school to play in this environment. The best ones are also paid extremely well and protected as the faces of their respective franchises. Add in a naturally evolving game that's suited to scoring more points and some of the fastest wideouts to throw to, and it's obvious where the NFL's headed. Strong running games and the run-first philosophy that dominated football before 1974 certainly still has its place in today's game. Teams still desire to have a strong running back like Nick Chubb or Derrick Henry, as well as a running game that can run out the clock late in the fourth quarter to seal a win. But run-heavy offenses that outmuscle opponents have taken a back seat to high-octane, entertaining aerial attacks that offensive coordinators love to run, that defensive coordinators have nightmares about, and that fans love to watch every Sunday. As the NFL continues to evolve, teams will work to keep up with an ever-changing game and attempt to stay at the front of the pack. But time will tell if running games will become entirely obsolete in the future. Or perhaps we'll see an eventual shift back to the classic, balanced offenses that use a strong running game to set up the passing game. But for now, ruling the skies is priority number 1 for any NFL offense. Did you enjoy today's video? If you did, smash the like and subscribe button for more great content. Thanks for watching.